topic is regarding proteinuria. We will discuss the definition of proteinuria, protein handling by kidney, effect of proteinuria on kidney, classification of proteinuria, methods to measure the urinary protein, and clinical approach to proteinuria. Under this heading, we will discuss today. First, we will discuss the definition. In healthy individual can exceed or less than 150 ml of daily protein and less than 30 mg of daily total albumin. But proteinuria is defined as a urinary protein excretion more than 150 mg per day, and albuminuria, that is defined as a urinary albumin excretion, is more than 30 mg per day. Out of total urinary protein, albumin consists of 30 to 40%, IgG consists of 5 to 10%, and light chain consists of 5%, and IgA consists of 3%. Among the urinary protein, 10 also protein, that is also known as uromodulin. It is a glycoprotein not found in the plasma, but it is the most abundant protein seen in the normal human urine. And large molecule like IgG, IgD, and IgM normally not detected in the urine.
What is the source of THP?
THP is secreted in the distal tube. It is secreted in the distal tube.
They are formed in distal tubule and then secreted. Is it so?
Yes, it is secreted from the distal tube.
The distal tubule cell produces it.
Yes, it is self-producing. Filtration of blood occur in the glomerulus. Glomerular filtration mainly consists of three things: capillary endothelium, glomerular basement membrane, and visceral epithelium with food process that form the slit diaphragm. And glomerular filtration variant is the size and charge dependent. Here we can see the this is the fenestra of the capillary endothelium of the glomeruli. This is the basement membrane, and this is the slit diaphragm, and there is this food process of the visceral epithelium. It is called podocyte. So albumin or protein comes from the endothelium to basement membrane, and then it exits in the Bowman space. Now protein handling by the kidney. Protein excretion by the proximal tubule generally occur in the microvilli membrane is the site of receptor mediated endocytosis of the low density lipoprotein and negatively charged proteins. Albumin in the proximal tubule undergoes specific binding to the extracellular domain of the membrane receptor complex, that is called Wegelin tubulin receptor, followed by internalization of the protein by the membrane vesicle. These vesicles then are processed for the protein degradation by the lysosome. From that, amino acid that is released, that is transferred to the basement membrane of the tubular cell, and finally they are released into the interstitial space. From interstitium, it is transferred into the peritubular capillary, and the receptor are again recycled to luminal cell membrane by the dense apical tubule. Here we can see the diagram in which from the glomeruli the protein will be released in the proximal tubule that underwent the endocytosis, and this endocytosis vesicle that will go to lysosome for the degradation of the protein, and from there amino acid will be released that will be transferred to the peritubular capillary.
This is the polypeptide absorption occurs.
Yes, polypeptide that will degrade into the amino acid by the lysosome. Now effect of proteinuria on the kidney. Here we can see that if there is an increased glomerular permeability, there will be excessive protein that will be filtered from the glomeruli absorbed by the proximal tubule. That will give the signal, nuclear signal for the vasoactive and inflammatory gene, and some apoptotic signal they will release. From that they will release mRNA and corresponding protein that will lead to lymphocyte and macrophage infiltration, that will release the TGF beta, EGF, FGF, PDGF. These are the inflammatory markers and fibrotic markers that will convert the parasite to myofibroblast, and myofibroblast lead to cell proliferation, external matrix protein synthesis, and decrease the degradation of the external matrix that cause the interstitial fibrosis. So basic concept is long-term proteinuria lead to interstitial fibrosis. So in the CKD, if in initial phase we don't control the proteinuria, that will long-term lead to interstitial fibrosis and progression of CKD.
Any correlation between the degree of proteinuria and fibrosis? See, you say the 300 milligram proteins or 30 milligrams of, then we say type 1, type 2, type 3 proteinuria.
Yes.
So, with level of proteins which are more, see the point is that we get protein 1 plus, protein 2 plus, sometimes we neglect, sometimes we get 3 महीना बाद test कराइए, sometimes even though patient do not have hypertension, routine examination shows के protein 1 plus है, the video gives significance to protein 1 plus,
You have to quantify the
suppose the quantification 600 milligram
yes.
RB instead of 300, 600 milligram. So will you investigate that patient? Will you?
That I will put the diagram when to investigate how. Classification of the proteinuria. It will be measured divided in the functional and pathological. Functional will be divided in transient proteinuria and orthostatic proteinuria. Pathological proteinuria is divided in glomerular, tubular, and overflow proteinuria. First, we will discuss the functional proteinuria. It is a benign form of proteinuria in which generally proteinuria is less than 500 milligram per day. That can rise up to 1 gram per day. But these are the functional proteinuria that include the two types, that is transient and orthostatic. In transient proteinuria, initial dipstick shows trace to +2 proteinuria, but subsequent dipstick are negative. What are the causes of transient proteinuria? That is acute illness, exercise, fever, heart failure, UTI. That cause the transient proteinuria. But after the potential trigger has been treated or resolved, repeat urine test will be the normal.
So how long will you wait? The point is
till the illness.
How even 5 days of fever.
Okay.
The video test after 5 days, 2 weeks, 1 month.
Actually, the guidelines suggest of if patient having this +1 or trace proteinuria, you have to repeat at least 2 dipstick within 6 months. 2 out of 3 should be positive or negative. That will be differentiated. Only 1 will be not suggestive of syndrome proteinuria. You have to repeat at least 2 out of 3 within the 6 months. That will suggest of syndrome proteinuria or there or not, whether to go for further workup or not. Second is orthostatic proteinuria. This is also benign condition occurring in 3 to 5% of adolescent and young adult, which is characterized by increased urine protein excretion in the upright position, but it will be the normal in the patient when the patient is in supine. To diagnose orthostatic proteinuria, split urine examination will be obtained for the comparison, in which the daytime specimen shows increased protein concentration, but nighttime specimen show normal urine protein concentration. So in this way, we can diagnose orthostatic proteinuria. In the pathology of proteinuria, there are 3 types: glomerular, tubular, overflow. Glomerular proteinuria is basically due to increased glomerular permeability, capillary permeability, which is majorly seen in the glomerulonephritis. This can be primary or secondary. Primary glomerulonephritis include minimal chain disease, membranous nephropathy, and FSDs, while secondary glomerular disease include diabetes, amyloid, and lupus. Second entity is tubular proteinuria. It is due to decreased tubular reabsorption of the filter protein, seen in the various tubular intestinal disease. And third is overflow proteinuria, that is due to increased production of low molecular weight protein, seen in the monoclonal gammopathy like multiple myeloma, leukemia, lymphoma. These are the pathological proteinuria.
Doctor, in that orthostatic proteinuria, what amount of what time duration if patient stays lying down position?
What we have to do, we have to take the early morning sample. If patient is overnight supine, the early morning sample shows no proteinuria.
That is fine, but suppose I need to check it during daytime. Is there any specific
After 2
time?
hours, after when he is awake, he is going to work. After 2 hours, again we have to recheck. If early morning when he was awake, the same time proteinuria was nil, but after 2 hours of working, if we again recheck the proteinuria, it will show the plus something, +1, +2. So it is show the orthostatic. After
You are not getting my question. What time duration of lying down position will rule out this thing? It is overnight sleep is needed, or in daytime also we can go for 2 hours, 3 hours sleep and then
they have not mentioned like that.
Overnight is needed. Okay.
What are the methods to measure the urinary protein? Most commonly we prefer the urine dipstick. They are primarily treated the albuminuria. They are less sensitive for the other proteins like low molecular protein, benzos protein, gamma globulin. So majorly urine dipstick treated with the albumin. Here we can see the diagram of the dipstick, in which we can see the grading according to the color coding according to the level of the albumin. That measure the albumin concentration via the calorimetric reaction between the albumin and tetrabromophenols blue. That is an indicator that is on the dipstick. That will create the different shade of the green color according to the concentration of the albumin in the serum sample. It can be graded as a negative. Trace is the albumin protein level less than 30, +1 is protein level 30 to 100, plus 2 is more than 100 to 300, plus 3 is more than 300 to 1000, and plus 4 is more than 1000 milligram per deciliter. These are the grading of dipstick. What are the pitfall of dipstick? It can be false positive or false negative. What are causes of false positive dipstick? If the alkaline sample is very alkaline, like pH is more than 7, it is contaminated with the antiseptic agent like chlorhexidine and benzalkonium chloride, or we recently injected radiocontrast agent, or in presence of gross immature, it can be false positive. When it is the false negative, it can be in the presence of dilute urine, in which there is no albumin is not that much present, so it is false negative. The second method is sulfosalicylic acid test. That detects all protein including low molecular weight protein that are not detected by the dipstick method. Performed by the mixing the 1 part of urine with 3% sulfosalicylic acid, followed by assessment of the degree of turbidity. If turbidity develops, then we have to add the 1 to 2 drops of glacial acetic acid. If turbidity is due to phosphate or carbonate precipitation, it will disappear with the acetic acid. Now we can see the grading of this sulfosalicylic acid test. If there is no cloudiness, it is called negative test. If trace, there is a barely visible cloudiness. Plus 1 is definitive cloud without granular flocculation. Plus 2 is heavy granular cloud without granular flocculation. Plus 3 is a dense cloud with marked flocculation, and plus 4 is thick cloudy precipitation and coagulation. These are the grading of sulfosalicylic acid test. Now grading based on 24-hour proteinuria. This is a quantitative methods of proteinuria, in which less than 150 milligram in 24 hours should be considered as a normal proteinuria. 150 to 500 milligram in 24-hour protein is functional. More than 500 is significant, and more than 3.5 gram in 24 hours is the nephrotic range proteinuria. These are the grading of proteinuria. Now graded based on the 24-hour urinary albumin. It is less than 30 is considered as a normal. 30 to 300 milligram in 24 albumin is considered as a microalbuminuria, that is increase the risk of CP event and CKD progression, and more than 300 is called macroalbuminuria. Now clinical approach to proteinuria. If a patient has proteinuria on repeated urine dipstick, that is at least 3 dipstick in the 6 months, then we have to quantify the proteinuria by the 24 urine collection, like urine protein ratio create or albumin plate ratio. If the proteinuria is more than 1 gram, we should consider as a renal biopsy. If patient having low grade proteinuria less than 1 gram, then we have to see the other features like patient having associated hematuria, hypertension, abnormal renal function, family history of renal disease, or history of systemic disorder. If among that one is present, we have to consider the renal biopsy. If nothing is present and there is a low grade proteinuria that is less than 1 gram, we have to observe the patient and we have to recheck urine test repeat grading every 6 to 24 months. This is standard protocol we use for the proteinuria management. Regarding the clinical evaluation, we have to first ask the patient history. Generally, proteinuria is detected routinely in asymptomatic patient when the patient has no symptoms. But if the patient having symptoms with duration like history of recurrent fever with sore throat, but a bit of puffiness that is progression to anasarca, frothy urine, high colored urine, oliguria, nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, and joint pain. You have to ask these systemic features. You have to also ask the past history of diabetes, hypertension, renal disease, or systemic illness.
Now, in presence of renal disease, significant renal disease, see that proteinuria, the way we evaluate it may differ,
Yes.
How do it differ,
Once a patient can develop CKD already, proteinuria will not that much help to make the difference whether it is increasing or stable. Once patient is altered RFT, we have to main target when the patient is having microalbuminuria, that is 30 to 300 milligram of albumin. At that time, if we do any give ARB or something.
My point is that albumin to creatine ratio will give better idea of protein accretion.
Yes.
In case of in presence of CKD, my point is that.
If once patient is developed CKD, unique ACR and PCR will be the same. Before CKD, if patient normal renal function, ACR will be the better indicator than the urine PCR. The sensitivity of the test lost.
When what reason I described, that lady is only 2% protein.
Yes.
But when quantification was done, it was 10
10
gram.
gram, that is significant nephrotic range. Yes.
So even though the protein, the urine district showed only 2 plus protein, but the quantification was.
That is
5
always
gram.
discrepancy. So we always quantify the proteinuria once dipstick is positive. If it is +1, +2, +3, we have to always quantify the proteinuria if we are suspecting significant renal disease.
How specific is sport ACR level?
Spot acid is very sensitive. It is as sensitive as 24-hour urinary albumin collection. So in the OPD basis, we can advise for spot urine ACR.
According to KIDCO guidelines, is there any definition which tells us that this proteinuria level is CKD? Forget EGFR and creatinine levels.
CKD we have to define not according to urine ACR level. It is no any definition on basis of KDO guideline for ACR. We have to ask the history, drug history like NSAIDs, cyclosporine, any heavy metal exposure. We have to ask the family history of renal disease. We have to do the physical examination like blood pressure, body weight, because obesity can cause the FSGS, that is the focus segmental glomerulosclerosis. We have to check for the edema, particularly facial, pedal, ascites. We have to check for fundus in the case of diabetic retinopathy, when the patient having associated nephropathy. We have to investigate in the case of proteinuria, baseline investigation should be done like CBC, renal function test, 24-hour urine protein or spot urine PCR. We have to do ultrasound also. Which is the additional investigation we have to do in case of proteinuria. If patient is diabetic, we have to check for the fasting lipid profile, HbA1c. We are suspecting some autoimmune, we have to check for ANM, C3, C4, impedance BC, and later we have to plan for the renal biopsy if required. When proteinuria is found on the dipstick analysis, urine sediment should be examined by the microscopically. If there is a microscopically, there is a finding of fatty cast, any free fat or oval fat body, it is considering as a nephrotic range proteinuria. If there is a associated leukocyte cast with bacteria, it suggests of urinary tract infection. If there is a leukocyte cast without bacteria, it suggests of renal interstitial disease. If there is a normal shape RBC, it suggests of some lower urinary tract lesion. If there is a dysmorphic RBC, it suggests of some glomerular involvement. If there is a RBC cast, it also suggests of glomerular disease. If there is a XC granular or cellular cast, it suggests of advanced CKD. If there is a eosinophiliuria in the sediment, it suggests of drug-induced EIA. And if there is a hyaline cast, it can be normal. It does not suggest of renal disease. Now, how to manage proteinuria? We have to treat the underlying cause. Basic management is blood pressure and sugar control. We have to treatment of edema with diuretics and sodium restriction. We have to give ACE inhibitor or ARB. We have to control the lipid, and we have to give some specific immunosuppression for the glomerular disease if detected in the renal biopsy.
Any